One of President-elect Donald Trump's strongest supporters, entrepreneur Elon Musk, says he's just getting started with his political ventures. Joining us to discuss that, the Government Efficiency Commission, and more is Tim Higgins, the Wall Street Journal business columnist and a CNBC contributor. You know, Vance was a big deal, Tim, but seriously, if you had to point to maybe one thing, a total game changer for the election of Donald Trump this time, I think Elon Musk had a lot to do with it, just in a lot of different ways. Almost as much as Shapiro would have had if that had been the vice presidential pick for. I don't think it would have changed things, but I think it would have made it a lot closer.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania following Elon around as he was campaigning like a candidate. And I was there on polling day and asking people as they came out of the ballot box about their kind of opinions. And Elon was definitely injecting a lot of excitement into people for this campaign. They might have already been Trump supporters, but this just kind of took them to another level. And really talking about the idea that Elon could be involved in the Trump administration got people kind of salivating at the notion of him getting in there and just kind of cutting government, cutting spending like he did at Twitter turned X.
And I just think that he is, you know, perceived to be, I don't even know if there's numbers that, I don't know how his brain works, so I don't even know if IQ works for that. But he's a pretty smart guy. That doesn't make him a great judge of people necessarily or a great judge of character. But I certainly would think that an endorsement there spoke to a lot of people, obviously, more than I'm thinking of some other billionaires that where their endorsement probably didn't matter quite as much, especially when, you know, the perception of how smart they are.
Well,
won't mention any names.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know who you're talking about. But, you know, when a segment of people that he really spoke to that was very important was young men. Time and time again, I was on the campaign trail seeing young men coming out telling me that they were just thrilled to see this guy who they considered a hero, who they drew inspiration. At one stop in one of the Philly suburbs, I was talking to some young guys. One guy hadn't been employed since the COVID pandemic, and is talking about how he just saw Elon speak, and he was just inspired, feeling like maybe he had some purpose in his life that he could go pursue. And the idea that Elon was giving young men purpose by going out and voting, that's pretty powerful. Yes,
you would have to think so. Oh, okay, where am I going from here? I know where I'm going. I was already seeing bumper stickers that said, I like my car, I like my Tesla, Elon, shut up. So I was already seeing those. Is this going to hurt any of his businesses at this point? I mean, you look at the, I don't know what you call it, the recrimination, everything that's happening to the losing side at this point. It's I don't know what, there's like 7 stages, aren't there? I don't know where we are right now. We're in one of the early ones. It's not really denial. It's certainly not acceptance yet, but we're in one of them. Is it going to get worse? Will there be people who will never buy a Tesla now that would formerly have wanted to help the climate and buy a Tesla?
Yeah, absolutely. People I've heard from are absolutely saying that. Yes, he very much appealed to certain people, Republicans, very excited. But these aren't necessarily EV buyers. And we have seen in the consumer data this year a pullback among Democrats who say that they wouldn't consider a Tesla. Democrats, as you know, are big buyers of electric vehicles and had been big supporters of Tesla in the past. So this is a risk kind of going forward. If this is seen as a political brand, that could be a challenge.
What's going to happen at Truth Social? That's the hardest thing to really understand. This weird, you know, Trump's on X now, and, you know, Elon is, you know, attached at the hip. It just seems like it would benefit X at this point. We never have understood why. It's almost a meme stock, but how does that work itself out?
That I think was one of the dramas to play out. But I think one of the winners here in the election season has been X. Maybe not having the same kind of user base that it once had, but engagement is up according to third-party data, and it clearly is part of the conversation. Elon might have lost money on the acquisition. It might not be as valuable as it once was, but the overall value to his operations, his personal brand, clearly it's a huge winner for him.
It would have been difficult if there was no X, if you had, during this election, had to depend on legacy media. I guess maybe we're legacy media. I probably shouldn't say these things, but thank God for X.
Well, you know, it's interesting. All that money that he poured in, that's important, right? But a lot of billionaires pour money into election. It was his ability to kind of command the media narrative using X and his celebrity. These things probably, in kind of hindsight, were huge advantages, more important than the money he put into the race.